Here we go, Cicero again. Erant ei veteres inimicate. This is nominative plural, looks like. Cum dorbos roscis AMERINUS. So there were, ei to him dative, there was a veteres, an old inimicae, which is hostilities, or there was an old hatred, erant. So there were these old hostilities or hatred, ei to him, with duobus roscis Amerinus, with two roscis of Amerinus, which is probably the locative. Quorum, of which alterum, one, sedere in accusatorum subcellus video. So Cicero is saying, of whom one, I see, sedere. Video is one of the verbs that takes the infinitive. It's a head verb of something that goes on your head. So I see them sitting in, with the ablative, subcellus, the benches, and here we have the genitive in between the preposition and the ablative plural. So I see one of them sitting in the benches of the accusers, in alterum, the other one. So the first one he sees sitting, and the second one, tria huisque praedia positore audio. And the other one I hear, positore means possesses, and I hear the other ones possessing 3 praedio. These are estates or farms, huisque, of his client. The CE again is just the emphatic, and huis is the genitive of his client. So there's an old hatred with 2 of these roscis. One of them I see sitting in the benches of the accusers, and the other one I hear owns 3 of his estates. Quas inimicitus, si tam cavere potuised. So it means which are hostility or hatred, if, followed by tam, which means so. Cavere means to protect against or beware. We have, and potuise. If he had been able to be so on his guard towards these hostilities, quem metre solabat, which he was accustomed, solabat takes the infinitive, which he was accustomed to metue, fear, viveret, he'd be alive. So this is the father of the one accused in the court who was killed, and the people who have stolen his lands and fortune are trying to blame him for the murder, and so they can do away with him. So if he'd been so careful to guard against these hatreds, which he customarily had done, he would still be living. Neque, so neither or nor, enim for, the usual way to start a sentence, is the second word. And for neither, eudices, which is the vocative, these are the judges, the gentlemen, the jury that Cicero is speaking to. Metuabat, the imperfect of fearing, and inuria. For judges, neither was he fearing this inuria, unjustly, basically, if you want to make an adverb out of it, but the inuria means it's the wrongdoing. It comes from inuria, which is unjust, yeah. So it does look a bit strange, but neither was he unjustly fearing this. Nem duo istai sunt, for these 2, istai is the demonstrative pronoun. For these 2, Titius Rosci, quorum alteri, of which one, capitone cognotum est. His cognomen, which is basically his one of his names, it's the surname. So one of which is surname is capito, isti, he, again we're using isti, this one that's the singular demonstrative pronoun. So there's 2 of them, Titius Roscus, one of which is cognamed capito, isti, qui adest. He is here at hand, he's present. Magnus vocator, he's called Magnus, meaning great, basically. Homines eos mode, again going back to the duo, there's 2 of them. These are men of this type, modi. Alter, so one of them, plurum palmarum, double genitive, which means of many palms. Vetus and nobilis, gladiator. Vetus is the type of the second declension adjectives, and nobilis looks like a third, where it uses is for male and female and e for neuters. Habitor, so he's considered. So one is considered an old and noble gladiator, plurum and palmum, of many palms, which you get in victories. Hic. So alter is here we saw alterum and alterum. Here we're using alter and hic. So hic means the later one. Alter's used a bit like illy, which means the former one. So the first one, the former one, was an old and noble gladiator considered, and of many victories, many palms. And this other one, autumn, means however, or but he, nuper, recently, say, himself, ad eum, probably to the first guy, contulit, he took, say, himself, reflexive, to the first guy as a Lannister, which is a guy who trains gladiators. So by calling the first guy gladiator, he's probably scorning him, because he wouldn't have been an actual gladiator, he would have been just someone who kills people. And qui, that's just the enclitic. So and he who, ante hanc pognum, and before this fight, Esset had been a tyro. Tyro's a new recruit basically in the army. So this second guy he's considers himself a trainer for the first guy, and he was a new recruit. He was raw at this before this pugnam, this fight. Quod scam, which I know, or as I know. Facile means easily. Ipsum magistrum, well, it looks like we've got an apposition of accusatives. Scellere, which is ablative, and we've got the enclitic qui, and audacia, so we'll take that as an ablative and not a nominative. Superavit, which means he overcome or prevailed. And so, as he knows, he's easily surpassed or overcome the ipsum magistrum, his teacher himself, in scellere, which is crime, and audacia and boldness. Okay. And we'll do a quick daily dictionary word for Lannister. Top 20,000 words. The manager of a troop of gladiators or a trainer. Okay. 18. Nam. 4. Cum hic. Hic's the demonstrative pronoun. So when hic, this guy, Sextus Roscius, Esset, had been locative with a proper noun at Ameria. T. We've broken up the name here. T. Roscius and another locative at Rome. So autem's a second word generally as well. So however or but or moreover. So for when this Sextus Roscius had been at Ameria, however, isti, the second guy, hic and isti are the two contrasting demonstrative pronouns. So hic was Sextus Roscius and isti is T. Roscius, who however was at Rome. And cum hic, back to the first guy, Sextus Roscius hic, he was the son of Filius, assiduus, which means continually, assiduously. He was continuously in praedes esset. So he was in the farm in the estates. And cum, say voluntates patris. Patris is genitive, and this is say himself with the volante of his father. So it means by the will of his father. So we'll take that as a ablative, meaning by the will of his father. Say he was in the estate assiduously, continuously. And re familiare vitae qui rustica dedicated. So, and he was given over, dedicae, to the family life rustica. Rustica means in the countryside. So he was serving his family, living out his life in the countryside. And iste, here we go, iste was the T. Roscius who was at Rome, and he, however, frequens Roma esset. Again, Roma, he was at Rome. Frequens just means frequently, sometimes it means crowded, but so he was constantly at Rome. Acciditor, and he was killed ad Balneus Palacinus. Basically, ad here means near the Baths Palacus, which is near the circus. Rediens, here we have a present participle in the nominative. So, Sextus Roscius, Rediens, returning a cana from dinner. He was occidited, he was killed near the Palacan Balneus, actually there. You can use a genitive of that, near the baths of Palicans, but it's they're actually in apposition. Spiro, I hope, ex hoc ipso, from this itself. Non-essay, not to be obscure, so essay is just the infinitive. Ad quem, to whom, pertiniat, we've got the A there of the subjunctive, to whom pertains the suspicio, the suspicion of maleficio, which is evil doing. It's like two words jammed together. Male is bad, and fici comes from ficio, doing things. So I hope from this it is not too obscure to whom the suspicion is really pertinent to. Viramid, but this, quod ad hoc est suspicionem, which ad hoc means still, est is. So, but if this which is still just a suspicion, a suspicionem, nisi perspicuum res ipsa feceret, but unless this perspicuously or clearly is made ipso itself the fact, feceret is unless this itself has become the matter, still it's just a suspicion. Hunc, which is he, ad finem, basically means neighbouring or relative. Judicatote, it looks like a future imperative plural. So judge, Hunc, this guy who's a relative of blame. So basically this little section of the clause goes, but this, which is still suspicion, unless this becomes clearly what has actually been the fact of the matter or the circumstances, judge who is culpa, who's culpable, who's to blame. 19. Occisio sex Roscio. So it's ablative absolute. So with sextus Roscius Occisio killed, primus means first, nuntiat, it was announced, Ameriam, sentence accusative means going towards her. So someone went to Ameria and announced. Malleus Glaucia quidem. This is our nominative. A certain, quidem means a certain person. This is a demonstrative pronoun. Certain Malleus Glaucia announced going to Ameria. A homo tenuus, which means he's a man of thin means. He's not rich. And he's libertinus. That's an apposition of nominative as well, which means he is a free man. A cliens, another nominative. That means he's a client of and a familiaris, which means a friend, someone who's familiar. Sometimes it means slaves. He was a client and a familius of Istius. That turn your nose down at him. You know, he's a bad guy. Titus Rosci. We'll take that as a genitive again. So he was a client and familiar of Titus Roscio. And nuntiat, he announced domum at the house, non fili, not of the son, but T. Capitonus. We mentioned this guy earlier, the inimici. So when Sextus Roscius was killed, Malleus Glauco, this certain person who, you know, he's very doubtful of his nature because he doesn't have money. He's a free man and a client familiar of Titus Roscius, one of the guys mentioned before. He announced that Sextus Roscius was dead, but he announced it's not at the home of the son, which you would think would be normal, but to the inimici, the enemy. And I'll just scroll a bit. Et just means and, cum, when, post, I've no idea why there's a capital P there, horum primum noctis occisus esse. And when after the first hour, post the aura, and primum means first, the first hour, noctis of the night, genitive, he had been killed. So this is when the murder had happened. Esse just means it's a pluperfect. And the accusus is in the nominative as a past passive. So when after the first hour of the night he had been killed, primo dilucio, this is when the first dilation of the sun rising in the morning. So basically at first light, nuntius, hic, venit Ameriam. So this messenger, he venited, he came to Ameria. So this guy was killed in the night, and the messenger got there just as the sun was breaking, and he went not to the house of the sun to announce it was killed, but to his enemy. Okay, decem horas, which is 10 hours, nocturnus of the night. Sex and quinquaginta, which is 6 and 50, so 56 millia passum, which is 56 miles, and in 10 hours of the night, per volvit, it had flown basically, Sisyphus' relay of chariots or something, non-modo, not only ut ex optatum nuntiam inimicio. So that not only this ex opta means hoped for or wished for, nuntiam means message, looks like dative inimicio, to the enemy, primus adferit. He first adferred, so he first bore this hoped for message to the enemy, but sed etiam, but even crurorem, which means blood-stained, inimici, quam recentissimus, which had been as recently, as a superlative, so it's the most recently the blood of his enemy. And the enclitic qui means and the talon, which is the weapon. Paulo ante, a little before, e corpore extractum, from the body extractum, and ostenderated it. So he flew there in 10 hours of the night, 56 miles, to bring this hoped-for message to the enemy, first of all, and even with the blood of his enemy, which had just very recently been pulled out of the body, and showed this this tello, which would be a knife extracted from the body. Quadridwo. Ridwo, it means the days. You have bidwo and things like that. So that just means 4 days. Quo hac gesta sunt res. That these gesta sunt means that this was done. The res, the matter. Ad chrysogonus, this is some bloke. In Castra el Sully, in the camp of Sulla. Sulla's the famous dude. Volterra's is a locative, saying where it's at. So at Volaterrae, which is in Etruria. How do you pronounce that place? Etruria. Up on the top of a hill. It was deferred, so this was done, and the matter was deferred. It was carried to Chrysogonum in the camp of Sulla at Volterra's. The magnitudo, pecuniae, genitive. So the magnitude of the money, demonstrator, was pointed out or indicated. The bonitas praediorum. This means the goodness, or I think we've got the excellence in the lobe. So how great these spoils of the praedium, of the estate, was. For fundus, that's that literal word for farm. Decamentris, again that's 10 and 3, so reliquit. So 4 he had left, reliquited, 13 farms. Quae tiberem ferre omnes tangut, which all, omnes, tangut, touched upon ferre almost, the Tiber. So they're all nearly touching the Tiber. Whois, this is again of Cicero's client, of whose inopia, which means his poverty and his lowly condition and his solitude, he's separated from a lot of people, I guess, commemorator, so they commemorated, they were demonstrating how much money there was and how much goods there was, and that Cicero's client had basically no resources and was all alone. Demonstrant. So they pointed out, cum pater, when the father of this guy Sextus Roscius, a homo tam splendidus and gratuosus, a man so splendid, or you could say wealthy and gratiosus, means influential and popular with people, he knew how to get things done. Nullo negotio sit Ocisius. So Ocisius again means killed, with no business being killed, which means with no hard work he was killed. And per facile, per in front of something usually means exceptionally a great amount. So very easily, per facile, hunc hominem, this man, he's incautious and rusticum. He wasn't very experienced and he was a country bumpkin. And ignotum, unknown again, we see in the accusative, is that known locative at Rome. Possame, he was able, tolle, to be removed, de medio, from the middle of the this whole murder and confiscation of his wealth. Ad eam ram is just female accusatives. To this matter, policiantur. With the end there we know that it's plural, so they promised suem, their own opera. So they would promise that they would take part in this matter of stealing the land and money.